Hey everyone, Assalamu alaikum to all, and welcome back with another amazing episode of the Future Jobs Podcast Show. I'm your host Fahad Jobswala, and I am student and Chief Captain at Hans School Online Academy. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we have an extraordinary guest whose story is much about resilience and health as it is about innovation and purpose. Meet Connor Hiebel, the teenage founder of Amelia Island Microgreens, a venture born from personal health challenges growing into a movement towards sustainable nutrition and empowerment. At just 14, he launched a business that now delivers nutrient dense microgreens and kits to home and has even developed reptile focused products like Jurassic Greens. Along the way, Connor earned $10,000 FedEx Entrepreneur Grant and authored Let's Grow, Let's Get Growing, a teen's guide to business success. Connor, welcome. Your journey truly embodies the power of turning adversity into impact. And that's what we were talking about in the previous episode when I had Mrs. Christine Hebel on the show about the $10,000 grant, which is absolutely an inspiring story. I definitely would recommend to watch the previous episode as well to understand Connor's vision more clearly. So, hey Connor, how are you?
Hello. I'm doing well. It's so great to be on this podcast. It's been really great getting to know you. We've been communicating back and forth through Facebook Messenger, and it's really cool how much we have in common that we both started our business or doing podcasts at the age of 14. It's been really cool to talk with you about that.
Exactly, Connor. It's honor to have you finally. And
Yeah,
as we have a lot of teenagers, who doesn't have really interest on doing something, but what you are doing is absolutely an inspiration for our other teenage brothers and sisters, so that they have an inspiration to start their own by doing by watching this podcast and by knowing about yourself. So Connor, could you tell us what is your story?
of course. And that's a great question. So, my whole life, I've had genetic health challenges. And when I was 7, it was to the point where I couldn't get outside. I ended up going on medical homebound because I was in so much pain. It took 14 years to get diagnosed. Doctors were throwing around words like cancer, MS, Charcot-Marie-Tooth, big names. And it was just this period where we didn't know what to do, but we knew we needed to do something. And that's when we started going on a gut repair diet, really took on the saying of let food be thy medicine, and started growing microgreens. Microgreens are a tiny baby vegetable that are 40% more nutrient dense than your mature vegetable. Oh no, my camera just decided to zoom in. How do I zoom it out? It might just be like this for a minute. Let's see. Oh no. Well then, and so during that time, as I was growing microgreens, about 8 months later, it was like night and day. I was feeling so much better, and, my body was not as inflamed because before I was so inflamed, and so about fast forward to COVID, I was feeling better and I saw that the world wasn't. And that's when I realized I had something that everyone needed, especially during that chaotic time when food was going off the shelves and the quality was dipping and all of that. People were turning to gardening. And I realized that it was time to share the thing that's helped me so long in my life.
Wonderful Connor, and you know, in the previous days, when we were in the conversation and in the process to do this podcast. So I was looking at your post on Facebook. You were posting, during that time. So microgreens is really what world needs today as well. We were talking about the COVID
Yeah.
19 time. That during that pandemic, that was a very difficult time. So, could you tell us more about this microgreens, and especially how did you ended up having this kind of mindset? Because at the age of 14, normally we are like playing video games, or if
Yeah.
it's very, if it increases, so maybe we are at high school, something like that. But we are not doing such big work which you did at the age of 14, which is really inspirational. So could you tell us first about how did you got this idea, and then later about the microgreens?
Yeah, definitely. So, my whole life, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. When I was 4, we were walking into Beals, which is a store locally here, and as we were walking in, I had this idea. So I picked up a rock, and I walked up to this complete stranger who I'd never met before, and I asked him, handing out the rock, "Would you like to buy a rock?" And he just looked at me so confused, and he was like, "How much is your rock?" I said, "$1." So he said, "Okay." He handed me the dollar, and I went to hand him the rock, and he said, "No, you keep it and sell it to the next person you see." When that happened, I was hooked on entrepreneurship because not only did I get the dollar, I also got to keep my inventory. What a great business model. And then fast forward, my mom taught me supply and demand because obviously the supply and demand, it seemed really big, but it was mostly because I was a kid. And so I was in Georgia catching some daddy longlegs, which are these little tiny spiders with long legs. And so I was catching them, and I walk over to my neighbor, knock on the door, and I ask, "Would you like to buy some daddy longlegs?" He said, "No, just flat out no. Nothing else, just no. No negotiation." So I said, "Okay." What I didn't tell my parents until 2 years later was what I did with those unsold daddy long legs. I put them in his mailbox. And so ever since, I've just kind of been an entrepreneur. And when COVID hit and the produce got so funky, I realized this was something that I could share with the world that would have a lasting, meaningful impact. It was that thing that I always wanted to sell something. I always wanted to be the entrepreneur. And this was the thing that I knew people needed. And I knew I could make a difference in a way that was meaningful. And so this was that thing that I was like, this is it. This is my thing. And so it's just been really fun to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe you're born with the entrepreneur mindset already, like you from starting you already have this kind of mindset, because not everyone have this business kind of mindset, which I was also talking about in the previous episode. But you had that,
Yeah.
you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
So how
And it's
your
funny
mother
because
caught in? Oh,
go
sorry,
ahead.
you can continue.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say it's kind of funny how, like, my mom really knew she did not want to be an entrepreneur, and I really knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And it's one of those things, entrepreneurship is something that you don't have to know everything about. If you're just starting out, you can just know that you want to do entrepreneurship and not know. You don't need to know everything. And in fact, if you think you know everything, especially know everything about being an entrepreneur, you don't know everything. And that mindset is going to stop you from so much growth that will help your company. And so always come at it from a learner's mindset and always get in the rooms with the right people.
Exactly, very very important thing. So what inner
Yeah.
spark first ignited your passion for microgreens at such a young age?
I would say it would be the mix between the entrepreneurship and the mix between my own challenges. By having my own challenges, as much as I do not want to relive having really bad gut challenges and all the stuff I had, I am really grateful that I went through that so that I was able to help other people and to learn how to support them, especially with something like diet or mindset or something, whatever it is that that person needs, because I can really be aware of what's going on. And so having both of those things together is really powerful, and it's what fuels Amelia Island microgreens. It's been so cool to see young kids who had no interest in vegetables, none, chicken nuggets and hamburgers, that was it, start to grow their own microgreens. And they were like, I'm not going to eat vegetables. They started, because they were growing their microgreens, started to eat their vegetables. And that is so huge. It was a huge leap to go from vegetable or microgreens, and then they started eating those vegetables. And seeing that happen is what fuels my company, because that's the whole reason why I started, was to empower people to grow their own health. And it's been so cool to see all the customers who have had incredible and amazing successes with that.
Wonderful. Like you made something possible which was completely like impossible. Like it is, even parents couldn't force their children to eat vegetables. They just
Yeah.
sometimes they fall, fall the uh, glass or the instrument where the vegetables is. Uh, you know, so that is really wonderful, and I would say that is the biggest achievement.
Mm. Yeah. It's a really amazing achievement for sure.
So, how did personal health experiences shape both your mission and your mindset as an entrepreneur?
I would say it would go back to one of my favorite quotes by Napoleon Hill, which is, "With every challenge comes a seed of equal or greater opportunity." Now, it's just a seed, you have to then water. And it's that seed that can grow into something huge, something amazing, something incredible. And you can choose that. And so, with the experience with my health challenges, yes, I wouldn't wanna relive it again, and yet it gave me that seed that can help grow the company, grow a mission, a vision, and every one of us has a seed inside of us. In fact, we can have multiple seeds. Hopefully not too many seeds, because that can be a lot of challenges, and yet those things are really what can help someone grow and be inspired to create something incredible. And so, finding that seed and finding what your mission and your vision is of what you want to contribute into the world is such a powerful way to start a business. If the reason why you get into a business is because you want to make money and that's it, there's nothing more, then when things get tough, when times get hard, because in business there are going to be hard times, the reason why you're doing it may not, if it's money, may not be worth it, because it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy to get to where you're making money. And in that period of time where it's tough, you need to believe in what your mission and what your vision are. And that is such a powerful thing when you find that.
They're so beautiful, Connor. Like, um, if we all have this kind of mindset, in the business, that whatever happens, if we even get bankrupt, God forbid, and
Yeah, fingers
that is
crossed.
just an example. Yeah. So, but you have to have this belief that you are not doing to make money. You are doing to contribute something in this world, to make this world a better place. So you will be doing that for lifelong, I would say. That is really
100%.
beautiful.
And I feel like a lot of people on this call or on this podcast who are in that period of starting their business will also start to see that as well. That as they start their business, as they grow and expand, even in the difficult times, if you always go back to that vision, that reason why you're starting, that you will stick through all of the tough times.
Exactly. Connor, it seems like you also have a big interest in reading books,
I
So, could you
do.
tell us about that aspect of your life, because that is really interesting. And nowadays, we're seeing the era of, and we are living in the era of AI, where we have very small amount of teenagers or children, especially, who read the books. So, could you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I've read over 100 books in the past 2 years, and it's been really cool to start reading. What you find is that once you start reading a lot of, and I read the really a lot of mindset, a lot of, entrepreneur books, and you'll find that once you read a couple of them, you'll start to see pieces of every single one in each other, because it all comes back to what the truth is. The truth is the truth is the truth. And so I would say My favorite books would be Atomic Habits for sure. If you're wanting to start a habit of reading, why not read a book on habits? It's such a powerful book, and it really breaks down that framework of how we start and set habits. Really good book. My second book would be The Four Agreements. And it's the four agreements that when we make them to ourselves, we are able to grow and expand and be the best versions of ourselves. It's such a powerful book and it's a really easy read. And then I would say my third book would be Think and Grow Rich, which is, of course, a very big entrepreneurial book, really good framework for starting your business. And there's so many incredible books. If you're wanting to start reading books, just find a list of really good entrepreneur books and just start reading. All you need to do, start by reading a sentence a day, then read a page a day. Then all of a sudden you'll start noticing that you're reading multiple pages, maybe even chapters. And then it just keeps expanding and expanding from there. And if you don't like reading words and you kind of just get bored from that, try listening to an audiobook. Maybe when you're folding clothes, doing the dishes, driving. If you're driving quite a lot, then that can be like your time, your education. Because when you start reading books from people who have done what you're looking to do, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's a particular job, whether it's you want to do something creative and you want some ideas, that is a really great way to start learning, start growing, and being the best version of yourself.
Exactly. So the last book you mentioned, Think Grow and
Mhm,
Rich, maybe it's correct. I also, decided to read this book, but because of
mhm.
this book is really huge, so I couldn't. But I would strongly recommend, as you were also talking about the audiobook. So I actually found the audio version of this book on Spotify. So you can definitely read if you cannot read, so you can just play the audio, whether you are driving, whether you are doing something else, sitting on the couch or something. So you can just listen to the book, but the important lessons you will be getting is just worth it.
Yeah. 100%. Have you read the book Outwitting the Devil? It's by Napoleon Hill as well.
I'm a big fan of Napoleon Hill. However, I
Yeah.
haven't read this book.
So this one's really interesting because Outwitting the Devil was not allowed to be published until after Napoleon Hill died. I think it was 2 generations after Napoleon Hill because the backlash on his family would be so huge. And so it's really fascinating, like, now it makes sense what he was talking about, but back then it would have been so huge that, like, it would have really impacted his name and his reputation, and it talks about how we move and it talks about the devil isn't like pitchfork and horns and all that. It's like you have the positive and negative ions in an atom, and there's the positive and negative, so it's the negative side. And it talks about the drifting of people just kind of having that glaze over their eyes, not having an aim in life, not doing their dream entrepreneurship goal. Like you were talking about kids playing video games and not having that aim. And it talks about how the devil gets people into that rhythm of just kind of glazing over life. And so it's really fascinating.
Beautiful, beautiful, Connor.
Yeah.
So maybe my next book would be this one.
Yeah. It's really good. And
Wonderful,
it also helps you learn how to stay out of that and really focus on your dreams too.
amazing. So Connor, what inspired you to write Let's Get Growing book, which is amazing.
Yeah, so I created this book, Let's Get Growing, A Teen's Guide to Entrepreneurial Success. And I created it because over the past 5 years, I've learned so much about entrepreneurship, not only from going and being in the rooms with people like Sharon Lecter, who helped release Outwitting the Devil, Greg Reed, a bunch of big names. I'm about to go meet Les Brown and some amazing people like that. And for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially teen entrepreneurs, getting into that right room, learning the right things can be very tough and very challenging. And so I wanted to compile everything that I've learned into one place so that if anyone's like, I want to learn entrepreneurship, I want to do the things, that they could learn the things that I wished I had known when I started. So it has everything from mindset to journaling to getting stuff done in a particular manner. There's so much in here that is really powerful for entrepreneurs. And I really just wanted to pass forward everything that I've learned.
Wonderful, Connor. Um,
Yeah.
what inspired Jurassic Greens, and how did designing a reptile-centric microgreens challenge your thinking?
That's a great question. So, what Jurassic Greens is, it's microgreens, but specifically for reptiles. So, the great thing about microgreens is that they're 40% more nutrient dense than your mature vegetables. They're highly nutrient dense and healthy for you, and they are completely pesticide free, organic, heirloom, and non GMO. So, really good quality produce. And when you go to the store, at least in America, which other countries tend to be a lot better with this, when you go to America and you go into the grocery store and you get like kale or collards, a lot of times there's been a lot of studies that have shown that on your leafy greens there can be pesticide residue from farming. And so that's bad enough for us. But when you have a tiny little reptile, it can be life threatening. And so, what Jurassic Greens is it's a focused blend specifically for your reptiles. So, you don't have to worry about store bought greens potentially containing that pesticide residue and making it so that your reptiles getting the best high quality produce. In fact, we had a couple customers whose vets told them that they could not get store-bought produce for their lizard. It was literally harming their reptile. And so they found my company because of that. Because what do you do if you don't get store-bought produce? You either grow a garden, you go to the farmer's market and hope that they're not just going to the store and getting the produce there, or you can grow microgreens. And so it's that solution that bridges that gap between going to the store, getting something easy and simple, and getting something that's going to make that difference for the reptile.
Wonderful. Even it's for like animals as well, which is
Mhm.
like we can use this for our pets.
Yeah. And for ourselves, it's so good for us because it's 40% more nutrient dense. And it's super tiny, so if you're someone who doesn't really like vegetables, it's really easy to sneak into a smoothie, in your tacos or sandwiches, whatever you're eating. It is so good, and, we have a wide variety, 11 different varieties of microgreens, including wasabi, which is really nice and spicy. It's a really good one. One of my favorites to add into to tacos because it has that nice kick to it, as well as radish. Radish is another good one like that.
Wonderful. So your microgreens have up to 40% more
Mhm.
nutrients than mature plants. How did you learn
Yeah.
about that, and how why does it matter?
Wow, that's a great question. So I learned about it because I needed to, out of necessity for my own health. I had to find different things that would help my body so that I could actually get outside and be a normal person. And so I was trying everything from gross shakes, like, I had this powder that I'd put into a drink that I would drink a lot of water, like, there was all sorts of stuff, that I did attempting to find something that would work, and, during that time finding microgreens, I found this local place that they grew microgreens and taught you how to grow microgreens. The tray that I got there was like half as good as the tray I have now. And I just really took their idea and I really expanded on it and made it something that was more accessible and easier for people to use. And so by going there, I was able to learn a lot about microgreens and see the power of microgreens because if you're very intuitive in how you feel, I've had a lot of customers who have been like, I can feel the difference when I eat microgreens. It gives you more energy. You're not as hungry because it's so nutrient dense. You don't need to eat as much. And it's just such a clean way to eat your vegetables. It's really powerful. And so, yeah, it's made such a huge difference. And for me, I can feel the difference when I eat it.
Wonderful. What role did your mom play in growing your business, both personally and strategically? It's one of the very, you know, what we can say, curiosity. This question really brings my curiosity. So yeah.
Yeah. That's an interesting question. So I think we can wind back to when I very first started my business. Right before COVID, I literally could not answer the phone and talk for more than a minute. I had such bad social anxiety. When I'd go to vendor markets, I would literally start sobbing because I was so terrified of being there, and yet I still did it. And during that time, my mom really supported me in helping me move forward past all of those challenges and really just helped me move in that right direction. Even when it was tough, she was there. And there were times where she was like, like, this is a lot for you. If you need to stop, we can do that. And if you want to keep going, we'll do that. And I was like, no, we need to do this. If we don't do this, I will never do this because I was so terrified of what I was doing. And so during those times, I really relied on her for that support. And what's funny is that a lot of people locally, they were kind of armchair quarterbacking of like, you shouldn't be helping Connor this much, da 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 da. And like, it was like, but one, I want this help. It's like, she's not taking over my company. And the other thing is that it was exactly what I needed at that time. And I was asking for the help. And so sometimes when you're younger and you start a business, other people will have opinions. Even when you start older as a business, people will have opinions. And you can listen to them, assess, is this resonating? Is this of benefit? Which in that case, it was not. And then you can make your decision from there of what to do to move forward. And so when that happened, it was like, "Huh, do I need to be more in control of my business?" Which what's funny is a lot of times when people see you, it's that iceberg where they see this much and then there's, like, all this down here. I was in a lot of control of my business, but they only saw up here, which they thought I wasn't as in control. And the other thing when you think about it, if you were to have an assistant or someone helping you, they would be doing a lot of the work, and so when my mom was helping me, I was just like, okay, it's like I have someone supporting me. I have someone doing the things that are challenging for me. And so that's how I look at it when I have someone who's helping me or a teen is getting help from their parents. It's like every business has that support system. If you were to look at Coke example, would you be like, oh, the owner is not doing everything in the business? No, you wouldn't because that's not what you'd expect from such a big company. Why are we looking at like a small teen-owned company any differently? Even though it's their parents, that may be exactly what they need. And it's something that I've looked at, especially for younger people who are getting into it. Sometimes they really like you can see that they're really interested, and other times you can tell that it kind of seems like their mom's almost pushing them to do it. And then you wonder, is it really that their mom's pushing them, or is it that they want to do it, they're just afraid? And so I think when it comes to young entrepreneurs in creating a business, it's one of those things that we need to put our expectations, our judgments aside and really move forward in that direction. And so as far as what my mom's done, she really helped me do the things I couldn't do at the time. And then when I was able to start doing them, really stepped back. And so now I run most of my company and I'll talk to her like when I'm writing my books, I will go over and I'll be like, hey, can I read this to you? And then she'll give me advice. And we work really well together. Like there's some grants that we were applying for and I would read it and she'd be like, well, you could do XYZ, you could change this. And then I'd read it again. And I would say, oh, we can change this. And so like we work really well. And there's not really like a strong like you need to do this or you need to do that. And that's really powerful. My mom says that she spoiled me, and it'll be much harder for me to find a business partner now because I know exactly what I want in someone and what I'm looking for. And honestly, that's really powerful to have. Whether it's your parents, whether it's that business partner, whether it's someone else in the future, having the people around you that are going to support you, it makes such a huge difference. And not letting labels define what that looks like too.
Beautiful, beautiful, Connor. Like when your mother asked me to take the topic instead of her journey,
Mhm.
um, to about yourself, about your journey. So that thing really excites me the most because she could take her journey instead, and spread awareness about herself. She's also uh, had have a lot of people who are following her, but she took your journey instead, which is really amazing. She's trying to get awareness about yourself, about your business. That is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I am so lucky that I have someone who's that, like, really focused on helping and supporting, and it's really cool because I know my business wouldn't have been created without her, and her business wouldn't be created without me, and so we really help each other in ways that, help both of our businesses, and neither one would have been the way it is without each other, and so it's been really cool being able to share something so huge with family. It's one of the reasons why we do what we do is to spend more time with family. Why not do that within the business too?
Exactly. Connor, you mentioned about the social anxiety you had. So,
Mhm.
what was behind your social anxiety, and why would a teenager have this kind of thing?
I think the social anxiety was around what all of us experience of what happens if this obscure thing happens, like everyone hates me, or what if this, or what if that, and all of those fears of like not being enough, not being cool, or being laughed at, or what most people have when they get up on stage and everyone's looking at them and they're like, what do I say to all these people staring directly at me? There's so many different fears within that. And when you have those fears, just allow yourself to notice them and move forward in one step, just one small step. It doesn't have to be taking that leap and getting on stage immediately. It can be talking to one person and then the next person, or even just writing something, maybe a blog, whatever it is that's going to move you towards that 1%. Just getting 1%, or what I like to imagine is 4% better. And the reason why 4% is because it's moving you out of your comfort zone, but it's not too much that you're going to get so overwhelmed that you never do it again and you shrink back. If you keep moving 4% and 4% and 4%, eventually you're going to look back at your comfort zone and you're going to be like, that was my comfort zone. That isn't that much. And yet it feels like a lot when you're in that moment. And so be kind, be gentle with yourself, and allow yourself to move forward and allow yourself to be in that terror. And when you feel scared, know that that's a sign you're moving in the right direction, and celebrate that fear because you're doing the right things. You're moving forward. And when you're moving forward, success is going to start to follow.
E-
And so just keep doing the things and keep believing in yourself.
Exactly, Connor. Exactly. That is really amazing. You and your mother, you both are such an inspiration for our society, for other teenagers, and for other people. Your mother is also um, gonna start her own podcast. She was
Yeah.
choosing the logo for that and also commented on that. The one I found,
Nice.
um, attractive. So all the best for yours as well. You're also starting your podcast, and this is what I would say everyone should
Mhm.
have, especially the people who have business, because to get your business on the top is to have the podcast. You talk about your business in your podcast.
Yeah,
So thank you so much, Connor, for finally turning on in my podcast and for giving me precious and valuable time for this. It was an honor to record this podcast, and like other teenagers should have inspired by your journey, which really inspired me as well. So we have very few people, very few teenagers. I've had some on my podcast as well. I'm still keep looking for other teenagers, so that our young youth can be inspired of that. So thank you so much for that. And
nice.
inshallah, guys, meet you soon with another amazing podcast with another amazing